Okay, my name is Robert Barter. I'm 45 years old. I grew up in Baileyville, Maine. And January 9th will be 6 years that I encountered Jesus, that I met him, and I love him more by the second. Well, I grew up in a small mill town without a father. He left my life when I was 1 hour born. Realized today that's where I carried a lot of anger, bitterness, rejection, insecurity, unworthiness. My mother remarried when I was 3 years old to a nice man. His name's Thomas Merritt. He's a really nice guy. I grew up in a very, very dysfunctional family. They didn't know Jesus. They worked hard. They partied harder. My father worked 12-hour shifts in a mill and drank all the time, and he really, really verbally abused the family big time. My mother, Sandra is her name. She's been dead for 10 years. I love my mom. I miss my mom. She did the best that she could. She worked hard, and both of my parents grew up without nothing. She had 9 brothers and sisters, and same thing. Their family was beat, raped, molested, every single piece under the sun. Same thing. So I think now that I have eyes to see that today that they numbed all their pains, wounds, and all of their scars, just like I did my whole life until I encountered Jesus. My parents were more of my enablers. They loved me with money. They bought me nice things. We always had tons of everything because they grew up without nothing. They just didn't know. That's how they showed their love. Junior high seems to be the really shift of me starting to realize that I had anger, hostility, and pain in my heart, because when it came out, I turned to drugs. I went to the teacher's house after school, drank some booze with him and watched pornos, and then he molested me. My parents never had any boundaries. They didn't show me how to say no, because it was just always just handing me things. No correction, no discipline. They just kept loving me in my mess, not showing me any life or any wisdom to walk it out. My high school career I got honor rolls in high school. I played sports. I was the top athlete all the way through my freshman year to my senior year. I have 2 big scrapbooks of my name was in the paper every week for basketball, of hitting the 3-pointers in overtime and double overtime, foul shots, winning. Our team was number 1 my senior year. And we lost first rounds in the tournament. And now that I got eyes to see again, after we lost to the 8th seed team, a kid hit a 3-pointer at the buzzer and we lost by 1. We went in the locker room, and me being anger and hostility, I punched a hole through the chalkboard, and then all the kids behind me come in and did the same thing, and we trashed the locker room. It's just so crazy for me to look back and to see all of the destruction that I caused by not having a father. Went to college in Thomas College in Waterville, went 1 year. My second year got kicked out because of drugs and drinking, and almost killed 2 people, drove a truck through a building. Not really sure why I just kept doing it. I seeked it out. I hung out with people that did worse things, and I wanted to be their friends. I was definitely a prisoner who was locked in to all those strongholds that I know today, and just kept doing it. Even though I know now that I wasn't created to do that, and I really didn't want to do it then. I'd go cry somewhere after I did something wrong, and well, why? Always asking myself why, but just never could tell. Never heard the inner voice, or never had an inner voice to be able to lead me out. So at 19, I committed my first felony. Went to prison, selling drugs, went there for a year, and it seemed like I fit in. I felt like I was at home. Everybody was crazy, wild, did all kinds of crimes. Like, wow, yeah, this is cool. This is where I belong. 21, 30 months in prison for aggravated assaults. We go to bars, and we were called the Down East Boys. We had a gang. We went to different schools and did wrong things. Definitely did wrong things. And that lifestyle just seemed like it fueled fighting, street fighting and barroom fights. Seemed like it fueled that anger and hostility. I guess now that I know for a fact now that I see, I wanted others to feel the same pain I did, and I went completely overboard. It was always assaults and drugs is what kept leading me down the road of prison. And I really liked it. I can't even deny it. I liked doing those things because it made me comfortable and it hid all of the junk that was in there. From 1997 all the way to 2016 was just the same repetition, darkness, hostility, drugs, crimes, all that mess. So this is the major turning point in my life, 2015. We were running drugs across the state, and we got pulled over by some cops, and we went into a New Hampshire prison. And we used to go to the church services to meet other people in the jails to talk about our case, how we were going to manipulate and scam and try every avenue to get out of what we were guilty of. So we went to the Bible study, and I'll never forget this. I can see that man's face and the whole table with 5 guys down the side, and I was sitting here facing him just like I am you. And he asked, who wants to change their life? I know for a fact I want to change. I just didn't know how to do it. So he asked us to get up and accept Jesus Christ into our heart, and that he could guarantee and he could speak with confidence that our life would never, ever, ever, ever be the same. Instantly, I was sold, like, okay. So 2015, in the summer, I got up, walked up, and I accepted Jesus into my heart. And that was it. I didn't know, but I believed what that man said. I really wholeheartedly believed it. Just didn't have a clue on what to do or how to have any practical applications or any guidance, any instruction. He was in there, and he was creating a home in my heart. He was definitely in there creating the home. I just didn't know. So I got released, went back to the streets, the same thing over and over. Pains, hurts, insecurities, but most of all, hostility. I just wanted to hurt people. Like the way I was hurt. So, same thing, I went back to jail again, and I met the guys from our RISE program in Machias. Their names are Pastor Paul Trovello and Aaron Dudley. Went down to a Bible study to hang out with my friends, and lo and behold, there's Jesus, and just didn't know it. He worked through both of those pastors. When I got up to walk off after the service, he got up and laid his hand on my heart, and Pastor Paul Trovello did, and said, God has got something in store for you big time, young man. I was like, okay, thanks. And walked out the door and finished my sentence, went back to the street, and this time that I had Jesus in my heart, the enemy was really warring against my soul. He was trying to take me out, and my mind battle was that only thing I knew was how to get high and do crimes. So in the midst of this, the end of 2016, was going to commit a crime. I was going to rob the U.S. Cellular and the Rite Aid because I wanted to get high and I didn't know other way to do it. I lived on the street. I slept on the sidewalk. I was sleeping in a truck. Everybody had kicked me out. My family disowned me, and I had nowhere to run to. And I broke into my son's mother's house right before these crimes within just hours. And I laid in my son's bed and I asked God, asked him if he was real to show me the way out and come get me. And within 12 hours, I was walking to commit these crimes, and my phone rang, and it was that Pastor Paul Trovello, and he asked me if what I was doing, and I told him that I was going to commit some crimes, and I was going to do court in the street. Means if the cops came, I was just going to have a shootout with them because I didn't want to live. And he said to me, why don't you let me pick you up at McDonald's right across the road? And I instantly said yes. And I realized that by accepting Jesus in my heart a year or so before that he just prompted me like to say yes. You know, the Holy Spirit was there, and he showed me how to say yes. And I never had a clue what I was even saying yes to, but besides not to die. So they came and picked me up January 1st, 2017. And this is definitely the point in my walk, the power point in my walk of my life, going from darkness to light. I went to a 7-day detox in Portland, and in the meantime, this program in Winthrop, Maine, Teen Challenge, Paul had already called the staff there and told them about my life, and they had a bed for me. January 19th, Paul came to the rehab in Portland and brought me to Teen Challenge. January 9th, 2017 was the point of my life being completely switched, and the point of my wounds, my hurts, my scars, all of the things was starting to process to walk forward into healing, deliverance. That house was great. As soon as I walked through the doors on January 9th, I just knew something was different, but I didn't have no understanding. I could feel love in the air, and I could feel Jesus at work in me. 13 days later, I got on my knees at Centerpoint Church in Waterville, which was January 22nd, 2017, and I told Jesus, I will serve you wholeheartedly just for the 13 days that I've been out of that darkness, not on drugs, and have a roof over my head, and be able to write in my journal to you like some guy I can't even see, but I know you're real.
Last question. Is God real?
Oh yeah. Yeah, God is definitely real.